All right, let's get rocking and rolling then, everybody. As I was just saying to you guys prior to going live here, I just want to acknowledge you and thank you so much for giving me time because I realize and I want to honor the fact that you could be doing 1,001 things. Everybody's busy, moving a million miles an hour, finishing up bold, and you chose to be here with me, and I don't take that lightly. So it's my job from here to make sure I pack it with hopefully some value for you that you can take and implement right away, right? Don't want it just to be another training for training's sakes where you learn and say, hopefully I got some information from that. I think we all agree as coaches, it's not about more information, it's often about more implementation. All right. So, um, thank you for that. And by the way, thank you to all of you who are watching the replay of this. I tip my cap to you as well for slowing down, working on the business, perfecting your craft, and I want to acknowledge you as well. So I'm going to share my screen here real quick. And if I could have just somebody, when it's on screen, just give me a thumbs up. You can unmute, say, yep, we see you. Anything in the chat, whatever would be helpful just to make sure that you can see the screen. Let me know, pretty please. All good. Okay, perfect. You never know. Hey, crazy things have happened. So, just real quick, this is not about me, but if this is our first time hanging out, I want to at least introduce myself formally or informally, I suppose, where my name is Jake Dixon, obviously founder, CEO of The Locker Room. Also not listed here, I am co-owner in the Locker Room Leadership and Coaching Academy, where me and my business partner had gone through the painstaking process of getting that ICF accredited. So those of you familiar with the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, we own an academy that people can go through and become ICF certified as coaches. And I'm getting ready to launch the Coaches Brokerage, and I'm going to share more about that later. If it's of interest to anybody here, great. If not, that's okay too. But we're going to kick that off and have our very first information session on Monday of next week. So perhaps that would be of interest to you. Either way, like I said, it's all good from here. But I was a productivity coach for 3 years. Prior to that, I was a team leader for several years with Keller Williams, have recruited a bunch of agents, and really found my calling as a productivity coach. Toot toot, humble brag, I guess. Within my first 6 months, I inherited nothing when I transitioned from TL to becoming a PC. I was in the Fort Mill, South Carolina Market Center, very profitable, high functioning market center, and yet they never had a PC program ever before. So I didn't come in inheriting anything. I had to build it essentially from scratch. And within my first 6 months, my coach at the time, many of you know Michelle Anderson, um, said, congratulations, you are now the top or one of the top producing PC programs in the country, which was really cool. And I was documenting all of those systems along the way. God forbid it actually worked. And so my very first year as a squeaky clean productivity coach, the agents in my program, we grew it to about 95 to 105 at any given time. Our very first year, those agents closed 523 homes for 124 million in sales volume, 3.6 million in agent earned GCI, and $1 million of company dollar. And we were able to duplicate that the next 2 years when I was continuing on in that particular office. What led me away from that office is the locker room, because that's just what I called it in my office. And it kind of grew into a brand. And fast forward within a couple years or so, we were supporting 250 plus other PC programs within Keller Williams, leveraging the Locker Rooms platform. And been able to duplicate a lot of success from there through that. So last shameless plug for me, I've authored 3 books. My pride and joy is The Cannonball, 12 Success Principles Children Can Teach You About Life and Business. Most recent one was Attract, Recruit, Lead, which is all about recruiting and systems and operations there. And final one is the 19 things they don't teach you in real estate school, which was actually born during my time as being a productivity coach. So enough about me. Nobody is here for that. You guys are here for the 3 coaching techniques to boost agent productivity. So let's dive in. First of all, let me ask you, what is coaching? You guys can unmute yourselves. You can put it in the chat. What is coaching? Because I believe coaching is leadership. But what would you say it is? What is coaching? Some might say it's the art of asking great questions. Some of you might say coaching is leading people towards self-discovery, holding them accountable. And all of these things would be true, especially by the ICF's definition of what is coaching. So let's see what we got in the chat here. Showing the new agent the potential that they didn't know they had. Ooh, some of that self-discovery and reflection, and yes, overcoming limiting beliefs, stepping into their greatness. I love that. Love that. And the beauty is there's really no wrong answer other than my humble or maybe not so humble opinion what coaching isn't. We could probably rattle off a lot of answers. And I think one of the traps that's so easy to go into, not because you're so egotistical or full of yourself, but because it's a servant heart, is professional advice giving. Would you agree? Coaching is not just telling people what to do, right? That's professional advice giving, or said differently, maybe that's training, if you will. But coaching requires patience. It requires asking questions, a lot of self-discovery, a lot of leadership. And so never do I want anybody here, not that you would, to discredit what coaching is. Coaching, especially in the PC role, is not the junior league. You are not below, in my view, MAPS or anybody else for that matter. It's simply you are on site within a market center serving largely, yes, newer, lesser experienced agents. But even if that's your conditioning, I would challenge that. We can coach around that a separate time. That there's a lot of cappers, in fact, in your offices that probably could greatly benefit from your services as a productivity coach there locally. Okay. Ooh, I love, hey, let me read Clint's. For me, it's giving back and helping in a way that I didn't have. Together, we are all successful. Very well said. Paying it forward, in essence. Love that. Okay, so I'm going to show this prior to getting into the three. I know everybody's about grow. The point is, what would Gary Keller tell us if he was on the Zoom about systems, right? What would Gary Keller say? Well, if you've been around long enough, you've probably heard him say once or twice that anytime you do something two or more times, you should what? Create a system for it, right? You should create a system for it. Scripts, in many ways, are a system, right? It's a pattern, it's a language that helps people get what they want quicker, easier, less friction. And in many ways, systems, are you going to have two or more coaching conversations with an agent? Yes or yes? Of course. So why wouldn't we have a system by which we go about our operations, the way we lead conversations, the way we serve other people? It only makes sense, right? So what I'm showing you here, it may inspire you, may help you. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but this is something I'm very visual, probably like many of you. It's a pattern. It's a duplicatable way to advance people with intention through various steps of their self-discovery, of their life, of their business. So something we've created is with the locker room is called the partnership coaching model. It starts with number one, self-discovery. And a lot of you, we're going to talk about it today, in fact, are familiar with PITFAR, PTFAR, where my programming leads to my thoughts to my feelings. The way I feel about something dictates the way I act or not, and therefore my results. So that's like the external governing body, the framework or philosophy. And then we created something internally called your strength zone, and why I believe success lives outside your comfort zone is complete BS. Little semantics, but hey, I like to run in different directions from everybody else. Once we help somebody go through that, which is all about self-discovery, now I can get into personal growth and self-development. So the governing body there is something I created when I was a PC in Fort Mill, is the MARS acronym. And it was always in this order for a very specific reason. When I onboarded a new agent into my coaching program, I would meet with them first, just like an expectations dialogue, and say, here's what I do, and here's what I don't do. And I'd always start with the don't do's. I am not your compliance guru, broker in charge. I am not your tech guru. I am not, I am not, I am not. But here's what I am. And I would always show them a graphic similar to this that, half kidding, not kidding, when you think of mindset, activities, results, skill set, and systems, I'm going to dominate your thoughts. There's going to be a little Jake sitting on your shoulder there that I'm going to win the mind share battle on those five things. This is what we're going to coach around. This is what I'm here to change and help amplify. so on and so forth. And that always helped. And then the delivery mechanism that we've created is GPPR, which stands for growth, productivity, profitability, and retention, or in an agent's case, GPPS, growth, productivity, profitability, and systems. And it's a whole thing that we've designed. And then finally, once I'm able to work with somebody through that, we get to step 3, which is self-mastery. A lot of you are familiar, I'm sure, with Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, cash flow quadrant. He created the ESBI. That's kind of that governing body, external framework, where we go from employee to self-employed to business owner to investor. A lot of us help the new agent go from E to S, get out of that employee mindset, employee way of doing things and into entrepreneurship. And anybody then who's been in the business for a period of time, now the next hurdle is getting them from self-employed where they own a job to a business owner where they what? They own systems. That's the difference. Okay. And the way we do that is something LRSS, which is the locker room success system. So I'm only showing this to you to see or challenge you. What is your method? What is your framework to take people from A to Z, right? And if we're just winging it and flying by the seat of our pants, I think we owe ourselves and our clients, the agents we serve, better to create a more systematic, duplicatable approach. All right. So that being the segue into the very first thing I'd like to share with you today. I promised you that I was going to share 3 coaching techniques to boost agent productivity, none of which is the GROW model. I love GROW. You love GROW if you're familiar with it. I'm not knocking it, but I didn't want to include something that an overwhelming majority of you probably by default use or go to. So the first one is this. PP, PN, FN, FP. You can see what that means on your screens. Taking somebody from a present positive and leading them through a series of questions into present negative, future positive. Don't worry, I will break this down. First of all, this is probably, if it matters, my personal favorite. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of skill to, in my view, get comfortable with, first of all. But this is easily the one that I went to the most, not just in coaching conversations, but recruiting conversations, getting people to actually move and accept and embrace real change because they created a new, compelling vision of what the future could look like. So let's break it down. First off, show of hands, or you can put in the chat, how many of you are familiar with this model, maybe even use this model in your coaching? Is anybody currently doing this or something like this? I'll give it a second if you're unmuting or typing just to see. But while you are, if that is the case, let me break it down. So number 1 is present positive. Now, what the heck is, hang on here, familiar with it but not using it? Fair enough. Cool. Present positive. What that sounds like, and to each of their own. This is just how I open it up. And by the way, after today, I will send you cheat sheets of questions in each of these quadrants. I got you. I'm not going to leave you hanging, so don't panic. All right. But present positive. I don't know about you, but I don't want to start a coaching session necessarily, or if this was a recruiting meeting, with a negative note. So I might ask you something like, hey, and I'm just picking on Clint. You don't have to answer. Hey, Clint, thanks for meeting with me today. Real quick, right off the top, what would you say is going exceptionally well in your business right now? Give me something you're really proud of, right? Or hey, what most excites you about your business right now? You see what I'm doing? I'm anchoring that first question on a high, on a positive note, rather than going negative, negative, negative right off the bat. And I'm genuinely curious. Denise says, yay for cheat sheets. That's right. I love them too. I'll show you guys those here in a minute. But it's like that, any form of a question like that, they don't know it. But in my mind, I am following a roadmap, a system, a coaching model. Okay. So I say, all right, Clint, what are you most excited about in your business right now? What's working? And he says whatever it is he says. Cool, got it, great. I ask questions and it's just conversational. But when that's over, I'm going to do a strategic shift. And you guys have all experienced this and done this, right? Now I'm going to say, gotcha. Well, that's amazing. Let me ask you another question then, Clint. What would you say, and these are just different variations of asking the same thing, what would you say is causing the most stress or frustration right now in your business? What's your greatest challenge? Um, what in your business is keeping you awake at night? Any variation of that, do you see how I'm going from a present positive into a present negative? Time out. Why would I do that? Because if you're coaching an agent or recruiting, you can apply it to any scenario. Some of those agents who maybe have a thick skin or claim that, oh, I don't need coaching, that's just that PC program, that's just a new agent training thing. Yeah, okay. All right. They might have this perception about their own reality that everything is fine. I don't need help, which you and I both know is ridiculous and stubborn and whatever. But instead of me telling them you're crazy, I don't get to do that. That's not going to land well. I've got to do it through the form of asking questions, which is what coaching is all about. So when I ask a question like, hey, so what would be your greatest challenge? Or here's one, I love scaling questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being absolutely perfect and amazing, 1 being it's horrible, where would you rank your business right now, especially in comparison to your 2026 goals? Very few are going to answer a 10 unless they're a smartass. Okay. Most are going to say whatever, a 5, a 6, a 7, something like that. Okay. It's getting me to the same place to help them self-discover rather than me telling them that actually everything is not perfect. Everything is not okay. I'm not just going to live in fantasy land of the present positive. I got to shift them into a present negative that there's something more, there's something that could be better. And what do great coaches do? Great coaches coach to the gap. Our job, leaders, is to help identify with the agent what is their gap. Because once they expose that, I got them. I can help them. Now I know what's underneath the surface that we can expose and tackle together to get them to their next level, whatever that looks like. So recap real quick. Present positive. Hey, what are you most excited about? What's working in your business? Blah, 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 blah. When that's over, now I'm shifting to a present negative of, great. Well, then what would you say is your biggest obstacle? Stress, frustration. You get the point. What I'm about to say next, when you do this formula with somebody, again, they don't know you're using a model. You're just leading and guiding the conversation with this mental roadmap. What I'm about to say next is the most critical part of this and where most people fail. When you go from a 2 to a 3, from a present negative to a future negative, because here's what happens. I'm waving the towel, warning, warning, warning. It's at step 2 where most people screw up. Why? Because I don't know about you. I think I know because all of our hearts are probably very similar on this. If Donna said, Jake, at step 2, my present negative thing is I'm stressed. I'm burnt out. I'm struggling with work-life balance. As soon as she exposes that, what's the temptation, coaches? It's what I like to call, we go into fix-it mode. We go right into fix-it mode. And I say, Donna, oh my gosh, you too? Me, I can relate. I get it. Have you tried this? Let me help you here. Here's what. I love you. And I know where that's coming from. It's coming from the right places. You desperately want to help this person. But I'm here to encourage you in this model. Don't go there yet. Don't do it. Stay in curiosity. Let it simmer in that crock pot. What does Gary tell us? He teaches us that logic makes us think, but emotion what? Makes us act. Logic makes you think. So do I want this person in the right context to be emotional, to coach them and lead them to real lasting transformation? Yeah, that's not manipulative. That's actually serving them at a higher degree rather than me swooping in with a cape, going straight into fix-it mode. So I'm just warning, from 2 to 3. Most people screw up at 2 because as soon as the other person shares whatever the thing is, we have a tendency to go to fix it mode. Don't do that. So here, what you do instead is, let's go there then. Hey, agent, I'm just going to use the thing with Donna. Wow. And I'm going to repeat back to them what I heard. What I heard you say is, you're really stressed right now. Real estate is burning you out, in your words, and you really want to create more space for you and your family because after all, you got in this for freedom, flexibility, and financial gain. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask you a question then, agent. If you and I are sitting here 6 months from now and nothing's changed, what does that life look like? How are you feeling then? What's at stake if nothing changes? You see what I'm doing here? Question, 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 all different versions, all different forms of basically asking the same thing, where now I've got to get them this out of body experience where we've got a future pace 6 months, a year, whatever down the road, and say, describe that to me. Well, Jake, I guess if nothing changes, I don't know if I'll even be in real estate anymore. And if I am, I don't even know if I'll be married. I don't know if my kids will remember my name. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'll have hair or what. Like when they hear themselves and they go there, do you agree that that has a different impact? It lands differently when they can imagine what that world looks like if nothing changes. That is a really profound experience. And this, coaches, you've all been taught this, I know, is where you let silence do the heavy lifting. Don't blow it. If it's awkward for you, that's where you just got to put your ego right over there. Because if they're doing this and it's silent and it's 30 seconds, but it feels like 5 minutes, zip it. Think about the Knicks game last night or something. Just like, but don't interrupt their thought. You just gave them a gift, a huge gift, the gift of thought. And they're in their feels right now, imagining this world in the future, 6 months from now, even where nothing changes. And now they're verbalizing this to you. Ooh, that is impactful. That's transformational. Why? Because awareness is transformation. Awareness is transformation. But of course, I'm not going to leave that person there. No, 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 no. So after we work and dialogue and they get all that out, we're going to end it on number 4. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where the real commitment, authored by them, not you, happens. So the questions can vary, but it might be, wow, gosh. Thank you so much for sharing that with me, by the way, first of all. Second of all, I just can't help but think, Donna, that the reality, the future reality that you just described to me doesn't have to be that way. Would you agree? We have choice. We have the power to decide. We can do something about it right now. So let me ask you this. If you were to change X, Y, and Z about your business, what does that new future look like? How has life changed for you? How are you feeling 6 months from now when you did X? What's your attitude? How are you sleeping? What are you feeling? What are your kids doing? How much free time do you have to spend with them? What do those date nights look like when X happens? You see this? So now I'm painting this future positive, getting them emotionally connected to that. And here's what we know about human behavior. Tony Robbins and so many other people teach to this. Our minds don't always decipher between what's real and what's imaginary, right? But when I allow them that space to go there and it feels real and it gets really intimate and they can articulate exactly what life is like, how they're feeling, the smile and experiences and all these wonderful joys of the future. If only they would do X instead of Y. Our minds work in such a way where we don't like takebacks. Because now that I've gone there and you felt that, you've seen it vividly, and I try and take that away from you, you're going to fight like hell to say, that's mine. Now that I've felt that, I've seen what's possible, there's nobody going to take that away from me. I'm going to make the change and I'm going to make it right now. So the things I stated in the future negative is not going to be my reality. Instead, the things I said to you in the future positive will be, and here's how. This is where you see people really dig in their heels. And how many of us would love more agents in our programs to find this version of themselves from within, where you don't have to convince them. You don't have to beg them to show up and engage or just make 10 phone calls today. They find it in themselves because you took them there. You helped become the guide who showed them the better way, and they authored all of the activities and commitments to get there. That's where real change is. So if you're struggling right now with agents who aren't just doing the thing, they're showing up week after week after week, and you feel like you're having the same conversation, you want to bang your head against the wall, I'm telling you, a model like this might be perfect for that agent. As long as you're willing to ask the questions, lead them to self-discovery, and be patient with it along the way without going into fix-it mode. Any questions, comments, snide remarks on this one? Hopefully this helps. This is one of 3. PP, PN, FN, FP. Obviously, you see what that stands for from here, but this is incredibly powerful. I would encourage you to practice with an agent, practice with each other, whatever, until you get good at it. So let's go to the next one, which probably all of you are familiar with. It's PTFAR, PTFAR. Okay, we're all suckers for acronyms around here. So I'll be relatively brief on this one, but just so I don't take it for granted, it means my programming, in other words, my belief system. Programming equals belief system. Leads to my thoughts, the way I think about something. I created a story, I created a narrative along the way. The way I think about something leads to the way I feel about something. And then the way I feel about something dictates the action or lack of action I take. And then obviously we all know the activities lead to the results or lack thereof. Okay. Now, if you're at all familiar with this, you'll know the single greatest hack with this cyclical coaching model is where we reverse engineer things. So I'm always, great coaches, I think, listen not just for what people are saying, but they listen also for what they're not saying. Do you guys agree with that? I hear what you're saying, but I'm also picking up on the things that you're not saying. Okay. That's an active listener. So in most cases, let's just play this out for the sake of demonstration. Let's say an agent of yours comes to you and says, Coach, and you, whatever question you ask prompts them to say, Coach, I need more listings. Right now I have an inconsistent income. My pipeline is not full where it needs to be. And gosh, I really desire more listings. So where on this spectrum, if you're listening, are they essentially communicating? Is it the P, the T, the F, the A, the R? This is where everybody said it's the R, of course. They're talking about a lack of a result. I desire more money, more production. My pipeline isn't where it needs to be. I want more listings, whatever. Any of that noise, I'm putting them on the map at the R. So if the hack, first I got to know the model, but the hack of this is now reverse engineering the order. So if I can identify their issue today, their challenge today, what they desire is the result, what do you think my first set of questions is going to be about? The A. Okay, so what I hear you saying is you need a more robust pipeline in order to have a more consistent income. Did I hear that correctly, agent? Yes, you did. Okay, gotcha. So let me ask you this. What does your calendar look like when it comes to lead generation? Is it consistent? Is it sporadic? What does that look like? Explain it to me. And then they say something like, well, I'm not really, whatever. I'm inconsistent at best. Okay. How do you feel about it? When I say the word lead gen, what are your thoughts? What comes to mind? So here's a real example. Let's just go ahead and play this out. Swear to God, can't make this up. This was last summer when I was coaching an agent here. in Wisconsin, where I live. So she came to me, and this is actually, I'm playing this out. I'm like, screw it. I'm just gonna play this in full speed for you. I asked her, hey, what's the biggest challenge in your business right now? The biggest obstacle. And she said, legit, she said, Jake, I have good months. I have bad months. I feel like I'm riding the real estate roller coaster, and I really, really need um, a more robust pipeline so I can create consistency of closings, therefore consistency of income. Anybody ever hear of that, by the way? Something like it? Yeah. So where do you think Captain Obvious went? Here's what I asked. I said, okay, repeat back. So describe to me what your daily, weekly, whatever, your lead generation strategies are. And she thought for a minute. She hesitated. You said, well, if I'm being honest, Jake, uh, I'm inconsistent at best, and that's putting it nicely. I said, okay, hey, no judgment. No judgment. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. So what I hear you saying, agent, is you desire more income, more consistent income, and to do so, you acknowledge you need a more robust pipeline. And to do that, you're currently not doing the income generating behaviors required to produce that result. Did I get that right? And she said, yep, you got it right. Okay. I said, got it. Thank you. So let me ask you another question, agent. Her name was Sarah. Sarah, and here's where it gets good, guys. When I say the word lead generation or prospecting, notice the anchor. How does that make you feel? See what I did? I went from the A to the F. How does that make you feel? And she did. You can guess what she said. She thought, well, when I think of lead generation, I feel slimy. I feel salesy. I feel inauthentic. Everything every agent under the sun pretty much says, right? Nothing new here, but this is like playing out textbook. And I said, well, that's interesting. Again, I appreciate you letting me know your feelings towards that, but I can't stop there. I've got to know when you close your eyes, and when I say the word like lead generation or prospecting, when you close your eyes, what do you think about? What do you see in your mind's eye? And she paused for a long time actually on this one. She said, Jake, when I think, notice the anchor, when I think about lead gen, I think about sitting in a call center or maybe in a cubicle somewhere doing nothing but cold calling people for hours on end. Huh, interesting. Is that really true? She's like, well, no, I guess not. I know people do open houses and other things, and we explored that, as you can probably imagine, with just organic back and forth. And here's where it got good. I said, well, I've got one more question for you because you've shared a lot. And I repeated back to her everything up to this point. You want more consistent income. To do so, you need a more robust pipeline. Right now, you're inconsistent at best when it comes to lead gen. The way you feel about lead gen is it's inauthentic, slimy, and salesy. And when you think about lead gen, you think of it happening in a call center, cold calling people all day. Did I pretty much sum it up? She said, yep. I said, well, I got to know then. Where did that belief come from? Why is it that when I say lead gen, you went straight to slimy, salesy, weird, bad, and cold calling people all day from a call center? Where did that belief come from in the first place? And I cannot make this up, you guys, but you can probably guess. I'm not kidding. She said, I can think of a time, Jake, about, I don't remember, whatever it was, 20 years ago, it doesn't matter, that I was in high school, I was at my mom and dad's house, and the phone rang. Now, on this day, my boyfriend had just broken up with me, she said. And so I was just not in a good mood. I was angry at the world, and the phone rang, and I made the mistake of picking it up. And she says, it was a telemarketer. And this telemarketer wouldn't get off the phone. They were just hard closing me, and I finally hung up, and they had the nerve to call back. This is like textbook example, you guys. But I'm walking her through this model. She doesn't know it. And she just found the root cause. If I hadn't gone there, we're just picking at the weeds the whole time. Oh, try this. You're just double down your amount of contacts. No, no, that's not it. We got to work on the programming, man, the belief system. Where in the world did that come from? And she's been lugging this belief around for 20 years that's no longer serving her in the present. I got to pull out the whole root system, you know? And check this out. Programming, aka beliefs, generally are formed by two ways. You guys know this. Number one is the intensity of an experience, the intensity of something that happened probably long ago in your life, created a response, and that response, you started to create a story. And once you created the story, you found evidence to support it. What? And then it just took root. Where did that? It's never been challenged since. Where did that even come from? I don't know. We got to do some digging, right? But it can be shaped by the intensity of something and or number two, the frequency of something. Intensity and frequency are generally how our belief systems are formed, shaped, and supported, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. So when I can understand that and help somebody else understand that, now we can rewrite the narrative. It is possible that my mind, like a computer, can download a virus from time to time. And then I get stinking thinking and I don't have the proper malware or spyware or antivirus software to defend it because it was in a vulnerable moment. Maybe it was in my immature business years. I didn't know how to protect my mindset. That's okay, but I've never revisited it. I've never questioned it ever since. That part's not okay. But you guys, once I can get them there, awareness is transformation, then we can rewrite the script. Once I identify the misaligned belief, what's the new way I could see that? Actually, people really enjoy talking to you. People actually look forward to when you text them, call them, DM them. That's a whole different string and series of beliefs and events that now can happen in this cycle rather than the one that's self-sabotaging me that I've carried around for the last 20 years. Y'all getting this? I know you probably do, but to deploy this with your agent requires, again, patience, asking great questions, not just answering, telling them what to do and say, now get out of my office. I don't got the you gotta minutes like you think I do. So this is big time stuff right here. First one, second one, let's move to the third for time's sakes. This one is straight out of the ICF, the International Coaching Federation. And this is the one that myself and Kit, my business partner with the Academy, teach and use often, okay? This is more put for like the typical coaching session, because you and I both know not every coaching session is going to be so earth-shattering. Sometimes it's just a maintenance check, right? Every time your agent meets with you for a one-on-one or something, it's not like, oh my God, this is the best, most earth-shattering thing in the world. That would be a false expectation, right? So this is a very standard agreement with the acronym of TORD. The T represents, and by the way, with the ICF, they grade you on this. If you miss, you don't pass. So like there's a very, very strict, flow to this one. Topic like, hey, welcome, Catherine. What would you like to discuss or explore today? What do you want to talk about today? How can the next 30 minutes be the most important, most valuable 30 minutes of your day? Any variation of that is getting them the topic that they authored out on the table. A lot of you do this with GROW model. What's the goal for today's meeting? Something like that. Then I go to the objective. They told me the topic. Now why? I got to get in curiosity mode. Out of all the things we could have talked about today, what prompted you to choose this one? Right? Or what's the most so you said open houses, objective. What's most meaningful to you about open houses that you'd like to walk away with today? You see, I'm just reframing, asking the questions over and over and over again in various forms. Then I go to the win. I haven't even coached yet. We're just establishing what we're going to talk about so all parties are on the same page. Okay, so you want to talk about open houses and it's important to you because. What would you like to see as an outcome then for today? Well, Jake, what I would like to walk away with is a step-by-step process of how to do a level 5 open house. Okay, cool. Absolutely. We can totally do that now that we're clear with each other. The A represents adversity. What do you see standing in the way, or is there an obstacle that we need to address first or resolve first before we can talk about a level 5 open house? Then the R is responsibility. What do you think is the best method or accountability? So the TOWA happens at the start of the coaching session. We're just putting it all on the table before we get rolling. The R and the D happen at the very end, traditionally, of the coaching session. So at the end, this is like the W in the grow model. What's the way forward? What's the new commitment? What are you going to do based on what we talked about today? And how will you hold yourself accountable to doing it? That's where you're locking them down on the R. This is my favorite question of this model is the D. Very few of us ask this, and we need to. We need to get better at, in my opinion, asking questions like this. Before we break, Denise, we talked about open houses and the level 5s. You got the plan. Here's what you said you're going to do. Before we break for today, I'm curious, what did you learn about yourself today? Oh, such a good question. Because they're having epiphanies. We can go strategy and tactic and guerrilla warfare all we want with them. But that is a gift from the gods when we can ask them a question that causes them to self-discover and reflect. Well, I learned that, I'm more creative than I give myself credit for. I learned that actually, when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. Whatever. But that self-discovery question, what did you learn about yourself? Oh man, please start asking that or sprinkle that in. It's such a great question, and the answers you get generally would be amazing because nobody else is asking them questions like that. Okay. So we've talked about the three. I know we're pushing time here a little bit. Um, Told you I wasn't going to leave you hanging though. Models are great, but knowing the situations to apply the models is what makes you a coaching ninja. Okay. It's like, I don't know, grow. I'm just going to use grow on everybody. Well, okay, but that's not always fitting for the situation. So, in my view, the grow is great, obviously, for anybody when it's a goal versus actual kind of conversation, or you're just trying to get them to commit to some sort of action between now and next time. Grow is very standard, very traditional for that situation. The first one we talked about today, the present positive and that whole thing, really good for perspective shifts and getting somebody out of logic and into productive emotion. But when they're standing in their own way, they're their own bottleneck, and you've tried everything, telling, and nothing seems to work, they're just stubborn. This is your go-to. Okay. PTFAR, ooh, I wouldn't use grow on somebody who's got a mindset issue. I'm shifting. They come into my office or we meet on Zoom and I can tell right away, what do you want to get out of today's session? Well, I got this whole, okay, mindset. Then I shift immediately. I'm pitfaring them today. you know, Belief systems, mindset. Pitfar is a great one. Toward is great for ownership, self-discovery. Again, toward is a really, along with grow, just your everyday, normal maintenance kind of coaching session, right? Nothing earth-shattering's happening, but doesn't make it any less important. And or when somebody really just needs to own up to their stuff or self-discover what is actually getting in the way, because this is the third week in a row we've talked about the same damn thing. Maybe you toward them. Okay. Is anybody, I'm just curious, that's why the question's on the screen, have a model, because there's tons of them, fuel's another good model, that you use? I'm just curious. And if so, is there a certain situation that you have found it best used in? Or any comments about like maybe you use Pitfar or like any of these listed some of your favorites or go-tos? Nobody's going to talk to me today. It's fine. It's fine. Not a big deal. I won't tell your agents that you're not participating the way you yell at them for not participating. It's fine. See what I did? I'm holding up the mirror. Now I'm playing with you guys, just having a little fun. Chill out. Okay. Denise is laughing. Thank you, Denise. All right. Well, hey, um, to close this out, I'm not here to like gotcha, but I am here to inform that if you guys desire community on Monday, like I said, I am getting ready to launch a new business separate from the locker room called the Coaches Brokerage. Just a fun little play. It's not an actual brokerage, okay? But what if there were a brokerage for coaches kind of thing, right? And so if you're at all interested, it's okay if you're not. I'm here to just give. Then that is happening on Monday at 1 o'clock Central Time. You can just email me, DM me, whatever, if you want more information or whatever about that. But it is a very, very heavy community first business where it's nothing but real estate coaches coming together, collaborating. We've got white label tools and resources, a whole hub that we've built with Claude. It's pretty bad to the bone. Even we subscribe to a directory. So all of you would have like your own member directory where we can drive traffic and leads to it, and they can explore, you, search for you, similar to a Zillow type search portal. Okay. So it's a whole thing. If you guys want more information, let me know. Check it out Monday. But in the meantime, let me just briefly show you the goodies and we'll close it out. So I told you I've got some cheat sheets. Here's the PP, PN, FN, FP cheat sheet. Remember that one? And this is not exhaustive, obviously. But would I ask every question in the box? Of course not. These are just different ways to ask the same question. You guys pick out your favorites, put them in motion, but you can see here how it mirrors the same quadrant that we talked about today. I don't know about you, but I'm a sucker for a good cheat sheet. Okay. And who doesn't want more great questions they can just memorize and bust out during a session? Okay. So I got that one for you. This one floats around. I just put my own spin on it, but this is the Grow model cheat sheet. I recognize we didn't. I forgot to pull one up. Anyways, we didn't talk about Grow today, but I know many of you are using it, are fans of it. So I'm going to send this to you anyways. One that I just realized I didn't pull up is for PTFAR, PTFAR. It's a sequence like an exercise sheet you can print off or make fillable that you can go through that reverse engineered sequence with your agent. And just I use it all the time. Okay. So I will make sure I include that. Almost there. I've got 355 questions to ask before starting a coaching business. And legit, this was not AI. This was me thinking, asking. So after you get past the initial top 7 pro tips section, oh my Lord. Yes, this is like legit nothing but questions about every section of running a coaching business. And I am expanding. I'm not saying a PC program. I'm saying a coaching business. Not that it's not, but I want you thinking bigger and beyond just the walls of your market center kind of thing with where I'm coming from with these questions. Okay. So that's going to be included. And finally, like it or not, I'm going to include this because it's kind of fun. So what I got in the habit of doing, I took, well, how many are there? 284 questions or something like that. Let's see. Yeah, 284 questions that I just randomly typed. And old school, I printed this out and I cut them up into little strips and I put them in like a bowl. And so every day, okay, maybe I have stopped. I'll call myself out. For a while, every day, I would go live on Facebook with my fishbowl and I would just draw a strip of paper out, which was one of these questions, and I would read it. All right, guys, today's question of the day is number 277, which is what have you lost interest in recently? And then I would just riff live in front of my social media audience about that question. So if it helps you create social media content, this particular one is not necessarily like coaching questions, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to include it anyways and just send this to you. It's not fancy because maybe it helps you reflect. Maybe it helps you do what I did which is use these questions to create social media content because you don't have to think. You just have to respond and answer the question. Does that make sense? So I'll include all of this plus the Pitfar one that I forgot to pull up for you guys. And as I mentioned on Monday, if anybody has any interest in that, we're going to be kicking off a very, very new business called the Coaches Brokerage. It's just, we're going to have masterminds, live trainings. It's a whole thing. I'd love to tell you guys more about it. But otherwise, any questions for me before we break? Did you get anything from this?
I love the models. Thank you very much.
Yeah. No, you're welcome, Clint. Thank you. And just like anything, when we're telling our agents, need a script and role play. Gary's number 5 of the top 5 things on an agent's job description is script and role play. We should be role modeling that behavior and script and role playing these coaching models, practicing those questions. It's no different, right? Cool. All right. Denise says this was great. Thank you. And Catherine, thank you. Great. Awesome. Well, you guys are amazing. Yes. Well, we had, what I say, 37 register, and you guys are the ones that actually made it. So I appreciate you. And it's not a knock if you're watching the replay. Simmer down, hot sauce. I'm not knocking you, but it does matter, when people sign up for stuff and they actually show up. So, all right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave you there then. Hope you have a great day. Practice, practice, practice these models. Be expecting an email from me as soon as this video is done converting. I'm going to include the replay from this, all those attachments. It's yours. Do what you want with it. And I'm here to help along the way. Cool?
Thank you.
You got it. You're very welcome. All right, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you.